The wind whipped red dust over the bones of an old trail. It hadn't been walked in weeks, not since the ambush, not since blood soaked the sand, not since Deputy Silas Roan vanished. He came back on a mule, covered in cuts, lips cracked from sun and silence. Behind him, tied to the saddle, was a boy no older than 10, barely conscious. Folks in San Brio didn't speak as Silas rode down the main street. They watched, eyes narrowed, as if he were a ghost they couldn't bury. He stopped. Outside the sheriff's office, didn't dismount. "Where's the sheriff?" Miss Finch, the undertaker's daughter, spoke first. "Sheriff's dead, Roan. Hung 3 days ago. Said he killed a judge in Dry Mesa." Silas didn't blink. Just stared at the office door. "Then you better get the doc for the boy. Dig me a cell. I'm not staying long." They put the boy on a cot. In the livery, name was Caleb. Said nothing. Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't drink unless Silas was near. Folks began to whisper that maybe the deputy had done more than rescue the boy. They didn't know the truth. 3 weeks earlier, Silas had been escorting Judge Lanton through Apache Draw, a judicial circuit ride, routine. Then came the gunfire. Bandits. 8 of 'em, dressed like they'd come from the war. Red sashes, fast hands. They wanted Landon, wanted the ledger he carried. A book full of names, dates, bribes. Proof of every man who'd paid to keep land that wasn't theirs, or to hang men who should have walked free. Silas took 2 slugs before. They stopped shooting. They killed Landon, burned the book, or thought they did. Silas crawled half-dead through cactus and rattlesnakes for a day and a half. That's when he found the boy. Caleb was hiding under the belly of a dead horse, clutching something wrapped in oilskin. The real ledger. Lanton must have passed it to him in the chaos. Silas took it, promised the boy they'd make it to the high country where his brother lived. A freeman, former Buffalo soldier. Only man Silas trusted, but they never made it. The boy collapsed from fever, so Silas rode for San Brio. The desert hadn't finished with them yet. That night, 3 riders came into town. Dressed clean, spoke soft, said they were looking for a lost child. Doc eyed them careful. Asked where they came from? They said Silver Bend, claimed to be cousins. But Doc had seen Silver Bend folk before. These men had soft hands and city boots. One had a ring with the seal of the governor. Silas knew what they were, killers, sent to clean up. He left town before sunup, took the boy, took the ledger, rode north. He didn't say goodbye. Behind him, fire bloomed in San Brio. 3 dead, including Doc. Miss Finch buried them herself. The trail to the high country was murder. Blistering heat. Coyotes with ribs like knives. No water for days. They found a creek once. Thought they were saved. Till Caleb drank and went limp. Snake bit. Silas tried to suck the venom. Burned the wound. Prayed for rain, but got only silence. Then, in the shimmer of dusk, came a figure, wrapped in buckskin, face painted with ash, moved like shadow. His name was Toma, Apache. Silent, scarred, he took the boy, laid him in dirt, saying something that shook the wind. Next morning, the fever broke. Silas offered him gold. Toma spat. Debt paid. He saved my daughter once, now returned. They rode together. Toma knew paths no map showed. Springs hidden behind stone, which plants healed, which killed. Didn't speak much. Just watched Caleb like a hawk.
And when?
He smiled. It was like a storm clearing. But peace doesn't last in the desert. 3 days out, they crossed a ridge and saw smoke. A ranch. Burned to the nails. Chickens dead. Bodies in the dust. One wore a badge. The ledger had caught wind. Silas buried the bodies with his hands, marked the grave with an old saddle tree. Caleb asked if they were good men. Silas couldn't answer. They pressed on, found shelter in an abandoned mining shack. Spent a week eating rats and dreaming of snow. Then Caleb disappeared. Silas searched until night fell, found footprints near a bluff. Fresh deep, saw Toma's knife in the dirt. Blood on. The handle and a ring. His governor's seal. The boy had been taken. Toma returned at dawn, eyes black with rage. They head west. Salt flats. They followed. No water. No shade. Buzzards circled like they knew the ending. They found the camp near dusk. 5 men, 1 boy. Small fire. Silas and Toma waited, counted guns, then walked into hell. Gunfire shattered the stars. 1 man dropped before he drew. Toma moved like thunder. Silas took a round to the shoulder, another in the thigh. Still they fought. When it ended, only 1 man remained. The leader. Black coat, red sash, eyes like winter. He held the boy, knife to his throat. "Give me the ledger." Silas dropped it in the dirt. The man kicked Caleb forward, picked it up, then laughed. "I'll bury it where no one finds it. Truth don't matter." "Out here." Toma stepped forward, said nothing, just pointed. Behind him, the wind carried the sound of hooves. Men on horseback. 10 of them, buffalo soldiers. Caleb's brother rode at the front. They didn't speak, just watched. The man in the black coat turned. Silas pulled his last bullet and fired, right through the ledger into his chest. He dropped, face first, truth inked. In blood, they buried him under a cottonwood. Left the ring on his finger. Caleb went with his brother. Safe at last, Silas stayed behind. Toma too. There were more names. More towns. More dust to stir. They rode at dawn, toward the high country. Toward whatever was left. The buzzards found the bodies before the law ever could. 3 men, face down in salt-crusted dirt, their horses long gone. A burned map lay beside one of them. On it, a trail circled in red high country. No names, just that. Silas Roan sat in. The shade of a boulder, blood drying at his temple. Toma tended his wounds with a steady hand, silent as always. Caleb watched from a ledge above, legs swinging, eyes hollow. He hadn't spoken since the gunfire ended. They weren't alone anymore. Word had spread. Whispers in saloons and post offices. The ledger existed, and the boy had seen it. Every man it named, every secret buried in its pages, they'd all come, gunning for silence. Silas knew there was no turning back. That night, a storm broke over the plains. Rain pelted the desert like glass shards. The 3 huddled in a washed-out cave, lightning flashing silhouettes on stone. Silas traced the bullet. Scar on his arm. The one he'd taken for a man who later sold out 3 towns to a railroad. Caleb finally spoke. "Just one question. Why'd you save me?" Silas didn't answer right away, just stared into the fire until the words came low and rough. "Because when I didn't, a little girl died. Long time ago. Thought I could fix it. Maybe just this once." Nodded slowly, as if he understood all of it. By morning, they rode again. The horses were tired, so were they. But the high country waited. Caleb's brother was somewhere past those canyons, and the ledger had to be delivered. Silas tucked it into the lining of his coat. He hadn't opened it since 2 days past. Then 3. Food ran thin. Caleb coughed through the nights. The altitude climbed. Snow dusted the rocks. They found the remains of a camp near a ravine. Men had been there recently. Whiskey bottles, spent shells, and a torn U.S. cavalry dispatch. Sat buried in the ash. Toma knelt beside the ashes, smelled the earth. They follow, 2 days behind, maybe less. Silas spat blood. Let 'em, they'll find ghosts. The next night, they crossed the edge of Pine Hollow. That's when they found the gallows built quick. Ropes still swaying. 3 bodies hung there, one in a Union coat, another wore an apron. Caleb looked away. Toma took his knife and cut each man down. Silas read a note pinned to one of their chests. "Thieves of the truth, get the rope." Signed, with a brand mark, cattle baron's seal from Bitter Range. Silas knew the name. So did Toma. They camped in silence. Each man awake longer than he let on. Caleb clutched the oilskin-wrapped ledger in his sleep. It had become his burden too. At dawn, hoofbeats echoed off the canyon walls. 10 riders.
All masked.
1 carried a torch. Another held a rifle with silver inlay. Former Pinkertons hired guns. Worse. Silas stood his ground. Toma beside him, Caleb behind. The leader removed his mask. Pale, freckled with eyes that burned. Hand over the book. Deputy. No one else needs to die. Dodd. Funny, Silas said. You ain't. Stopped killin' since you wanted it. Guns raised. Then the bluff exploded with noise. Toma struck for Starro in the leader's chest. Silas dropped to a knee and fired into the rider with the torch. Caleb screamed as a bullet split the rock beside him. The boy grabbed Silas's old revolver and fired blind. One man fell. The rest scattered when the dust settled. 4 were dead. 2 wounded. The others rode off, tails tucked. Silas bled from the ribs. Toma's shoulder had a deep gash. Khaled sat, shaking but alive. You shot a man, Silas whispered. Caleb nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. He was going to kill you. They burned the bodies. Took nothing. Pine Hollow ended in a ridge of black stone. From its summit, they could see the high country at last, snow-capped, silent, waiting. Silas collapsed halfway up, fevered, talking to ghosts. Toma carried him on his back. It was Caleb who led the horse. By the time they reached the cabin, the sky was ash. Smoke curled from the chimney. A tall man stepped out, buffalo soldier coat, shotgun in hand. He saw the boy first. Caleb. The boy ran. The man dropped the gun. Embraced him. Toma laid Silas down inside. The ledger was placed on the table. Caleb's. Brother opened it, read the first page, closed it slow. This is death. Silas coughed, smiled bitterly. No, this is justice. Depends what you do with it. Outside, Toma watched the snow fall. His breath rose like smoke. Silas died that night, quiet, no pain, just gone. They buried him behind the cabin. Beneath a tree heavy with frost, Toma carved a mark into the trunk. A saddle was left on the grave. Caleb stayed, grew older, learned to shoot, to track, to ride like wind. Years later, when the book was sent to Washington, not one name walked free again, toward whatever was left. The storm rolled in the night after they buried Silas. The wind whistled through the pines like a hymn only the dead could understand. Caleb stood watch while the others slept. Toma had said nothing since the last shovel of earth was patted flat, but he'd placed a single feather on the saddle and turned away before the boy could ask what it meant. The ledger stayed locked in a tin box under the floorboards. No one spoke of it for 3 days. Not until the knock came measured, steady. Like it knew someone inside already had their rifle ready. The man on the porch wore no badge, but his coat bore the stitching of federal hands. Behind him stood 2 others. One, a woman with soot on her face. The other, a young preacher who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. You have something that belongs to the people, the man said. Caleb didn't answer. His brother stood in the doorway, arms folded. You got names, you got power, but you don't got right. The man smiled with only half his mouth. Right? Don't matter when winter's coming? Hand it over? Toma appeared behind them, quiet as breath. The preacher flinched when he saw him. The woman reached for her pistol, but didn't draw. Freeze before you find your way back, Caleb's brother warned. The man took a step closer. Then maybe we take the cabin and wait out the snow. Toma's knife caught the light, still at his side. No, Caleb said. They all turned. I'll ride with it, deliver it myself. Just me. His brother shook his head, but Caleb didn't blink. He was 17 now, and his voice no longer cracked when he spoke. You'll die before Denver, the woman said. Then I die trying. The deal was struck. The preacher would ride with him. Neutral eyes, 1 horse each, light packs, fast. The man gave him 3 days to reach the station at 2 Forks. After that, they'd come anyway. The road was stone and bone. Ice in the mornings, sunburn by midday. The preacher tried to talk, but Caleb kept his silence. On the second night, They camped beside a frozen creek. Coyotes called in the dark. The preacher stared into the fire. "You ever believe in something?" "Too late?" he asked. Caleb didn't look up. "Yeah, a man." The preacher didn't ask more. At dawn, hooves echoed behind them. 3 riders. Same seal branded on their gloves. The cattle baron's men. Bird had gotten out again. They didn't wait to parley. Caleb fired first. Hit a shoulder. The preacher missed twice, then screamed when his horse went down. Caleb took the saddlebag with the ledger and ran. Shot once in the arm, he didn't stop, not until he hit the ridge. He slid down the rock face, boots shredding leather. Behind him, the preacher cried out. Then silence. Only one rider followed, fast, hat low, rifle drawn. Caleb stumbled through juniper and ice, found a crevice, hid, waited the man pass by. Caleb stepped out, raised the revolver. Hand shook. "You don't need to do this," the man said without turning. "I do," he fired. The man fell. Caleb dropped to his knees and voted. The last night before Two Forks, a blizzard hit. White stole the world. Caleb dug a shallow ditch and curled into it. Ledger pressed against his chest. Thought of Silas, of Toma, of the girl he saw once. Before all this, with braids and a silver tooth, he woke to firelight. The preacher had found him. Arm in a sling, lips cracked, but alive. Together, they rode the last miles through frost. Two Forks was little more than a telegraph office and a barn. But it had a wire to Denver. Caleb handed the box to the marshal there. Said nothing. Just turned and walked away. The preacher stayed behind. Said he had to see it through. Caleb didn't look back. Weeks later, a courier arrived at the cabin in the high country, wore spectacles and a city coat. He didn't speak their tongue, but offered a sealed letter. Toma opened it and read in silence, then handed it to Caleb's. "Brother, it said the ledger had sparked indictments in 4 counties. Land stolen under false treaties was to be returned. Judges removed. 1 governor resigned, but it didn't bring Silas back. It didn't erase the rope burns on those men, and Pine Hollow Toma left that night. No word, just a feather left behind on the saddle. Same kind that marked Silas's grave." Caleb stayed. Watched the snows melt, learned how to trap elk, spoke less, read more. He fixed the broken watch Silas once carried, even though it never kept time again, wore it still. On the spring solstice, he rode back to Pine Hollow. The gallows were gone. Just a bare tree and weathered dirt. Placed a single stone where the bodies had hung, marked it with 3 lines. Nothing more when he returned. His brother had carved a new beam into the cabin wall. Names, every man and woman who died chasing, hiding or defending that ledger. Silas Roan, Toma Gray, Liza Keller, Hank Dawes. Dozens more. The last name was left blank. Caleb didn't ask why. He already knew. Years later, when the railroad came and men in suits tried to buy the land, Caleb met them with the deed in one hand and his revolver in the other. "No," he said, "they didn't come back. He died an old man, alone, never married. But the cabin still stands. Saddle still rests on the grave. And when the wind shifts just right through the high country pines, folks say you can still hear Silas's voice, low and rough, like thunder beneath your boots. A boy became a man became a ghost. Became a story, one that mattered. If this story stirred something in your soul, leave your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe for more. Forgotten frontier tales that still echo in the dust toward whatever was left.